Welcome to the WordPress Photography Podcast, the podcast for photographers who want to learn how to get the most out of WordPress to grow their photography business. You don't need to be a geek to understand WordPress. Settle back and listen as we show you how. Now, here's your host, Scott Wyden-Kivowitz.
Welcome to episode 111. My name is Scott Wyden-Kivowitz, and today I'm joined by my guest, Jenny Midgley. I got that right?
Midgley, like bridge, but midge, yeah.
See, I wanted to wing it without asking you. Maybe I should have asked. Okay, so okay. Jenny is a digital content specialist, a brand and marketing photographer. She is the co-host of the Girls Who Do Stuff podcast and wrangler of tiny humans, surviving on coffee and laughter and the occasional French fries and milkshake. Jenny helps her clients leverage the power of their personal brands to attract your ideal clients and customers, grow businesses, and ultimately the bottom line. Her Stories and Strategies program helps demystify the maze of what and how and where and when, helping to create content that sells without being salesy. I hate being salesy. So people like you are needed.
Yeah, I'm really bad at sales, as it turns out. Like, I'm bad at the traditional sales, which is so I had to find my way to not be salesy and go in it for the long game.
Yeah. I appreciate that, because there's so many people like us that either aren't good at it or completely despise being salesy. Yeah. So anytime there's methods that could be taught to do it in better, more natural ways, it's definitely welcomed.
Yeah.
So this episode is the first of a mini series that we're calling Pitch and Shift, where we're talking to photographers who have had successful businesses pre-COVID-19 pandemic that have been impacted in one way or another and have pivoted and shifted their businesses into either a completely different direction or just supplemental directions to help that income that is lost from this pandemic. So this mini series is going to have the same questions for every guest that I talk to, and Jenny is test dummy number one. So not to call you a dummy, of course, but test subject number one.
I'm happy to be your beta tester.
Okay, so we're going to dive deeper into my this topic overall, but can you give everybody who's listening or watching a brief summary of your overall photography business shift?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I was doing specifically like headshots and branding, and that was my thing. And it's really hard to explain to the small business community like why they need a personal brand and why it's important that if they're the face of their business, that they actually be the face of their business.
Right.
And so I had already spent a lot of time educating people to what I did and what it meant, right? Like, because people be like, do you do families? I'm like, well, if your family's part of your brand, of course I will photograph them, but no, I'm not a family photographer. Well, do you do cake smashes? No. No, even if that's part of your brand, that is not my niche and I want nothing to do with it. I know excellent photographers who I can refer you to. So what I had started noticing was a trend, right? What I had started noticing was a trend that my clients were not using all of the photos that they were buying from me, which as a photographer, especially when you're like really proud of the work that you create and you've collaborated together, and I really focus on storytelling. And so my clients are having like these, really great galleries that they're not using. And so I started asking them why. And through that process, I created a whole separate content marketing system, which is what is now called Stories and Strategy. And so I can work with clients independently of the photography, because even if they have a photographer that they love, if they don't know how to effectively use the images, if they don't know how to effectively market their business, if they don't know what they don't know, right? So I would actually get people coming to me going, so-and-so said I need to talk to you. I don't know why. And I'd say, okay, tell me about your business. And that's how we'd start the conversation. But what happened with COVID was I lost 75% of my revenue because I couldn't photograph people. And like the content marketing was like a fun side thing because it was like, and it was a great add-on for people, right? Like they would come in for the content marketing and stay for the pictures, or come in for the pictures and stay for the content marketing. And it was just another great little revenue stream. Yeah. So, I went from mostly photographing and doing some marketing consultation to, creating an online course and launching and overselling the beta launch of that. I was originally going to sell 10 slots, maybe 12 as like the overflow, and I ended up with 16 participants. So, and that was in the midst of the shutdown when everything was still like nobody was doing anything and businesses were closed, and it was bananas. And so with that, I, kind of, it's grown since then. It kind of exploded since then.
So
yeah.
So your platform, is it a mixture now of online course and one-on-one coaching or group coaching, or is it like, how's that working now?
So what's interesting is coming out of COVID, like I was trying to clear my calendar of all my clients that I had put on hold. Like I had several different headshot and branding clients that were put on hold because of COVID, because we couldn't shoot people. As soon as North Carolina opened up, and my county opened up, I believe it was May 1st. Like I was out May 2nd shooting because I was like, it is what it is. And so it's now morphed into, so I was only doing one-on-one. I launched the group program. I'm now running a group program every 8 weeks, and give or take the closing of the previous course into the new one, and still doing one-on-one. And I have actually gotten more photography clients as a result of kind of like these efforts. Cause I mean, honestly, like I kept at it. I increased my email frequency. I started a Facebook group. Yeah. I did, like, there were so many different things that I'm doing to keep front and center so that like, yeah.
Yeah. As you were talking about this, I was thinking, personal brand photography is one of those genres of photography where creating this platform where you're teaching brands, outside of photography, just teaching brands in general about their personal brands. It's one of those genres of photography where it can only help, because now where, let's say you're from Texas and normally your brands are only in Texas, now you're reaching people and teaching them all over the country, all over the world, that potentially will fly you there for the session. And now you're in, Hawaii doing a personal brand session for a client that you got from teaching them about personal brands. So it can only help. I mean, and it can't be, the same can't be said for every genre of photography, but there's definitely a good chunk of genres that this can work for. Mm-hmm. And whether it's not necessarily, world travel or country travel, but let's say you're a family photographer and you're not getting as many families right now because people are scared. Mm-hmm. And you could create an online course and do group family coaching for parents about how to take better photos of your kids. And then you can get more people around your state or around your region. And now, okay, so I'm in New Jersey, I'm in the middle of New Jersey, but maybe I don't normally get families down in South Jersey or North Jersey. But if I created a family photography course, how to use your iPhone better for family photos, now I can get people all over the state where I may not have normally gotten it. So that just two great examples of how you can use a different platform to grow business, even if those clients don't come until 2021 or 2022 when the pandemic's gone. It's still, they're there. They're in your face, or you're in their face, and they're
in your. I mean, I don't like the term sales funnel. Like it's just it's icky to me, but it's the reality of the situation is they're in your sales funnel, and once they're in your funnel, and you keep bringing those valuable touches, like I now have I actually just re-signed the contract with my copywriter I was like, I need to lock you in for the next year. She does all my emails, because that was one thing that I was like, I had hired her. I was like, I want to do blogs and email. I want you to just write stuff, landing pages. I was really kind of frenetic about it. And then when COVID hit, and literally what happened was I was like, well, I have no revenue and I have like 2 individual content marketing clients. So I raised my prices and I launched a course. But I said to her, I was like, do you think I can turn this thing into an online course? And that was legitimately like that's how it happened. And I said, okay. And she goes, sure, why not? I'll write the landing page. And I was like, awesome. And she did the email series and I was like, awesome. And because I can write great copy for other people, but forget about it for myself.
Right.
and
that's how it goes.
Right. I don't want to. So there you go. I'm happy to pay her to do it. But I needed to figure out a way to make money to pay her for the contract that I was already on. Right. Yep. So I was like, how do you think I could do this? And we just kind of brainstormed and I was like, okay, Zoom, Facebook group, YouTube. And I was like, done. Because I do, I pre-record videos, I upload them to YouTube, I send out the links, and I host a weekly Zoom call, which gets recorded and or live casted into the Facebook group. And there's a Facebook group just for the course. So, I mean, it was like the simplest formula that I could get it out there quickly. I got the content created. I took all the feedback that people gave me from the first round, updated it for the second round. It's really great now. It's like extra. And my beta testers all got access to the updated content. So they're happy. Nice. It's just happy all around.
So you originally said that you lost 70% of your revenue. If you don't mind sharing, I'm assuming you made that up now at this point with that new platform. Mm-hmm. Have you exceeded where you were before? Now that you've not only raised your prices, but for the photography, but also now have this, Did you make up for that and exceed it or just made up for it or almost there? Or?
It is made up for it. So, because what happened was I ran the beta, right? So beta is always at a lower price point, which is how I was able to get 16 people in there at the lower price point, which covered me for I was first focused on April. I was like, I just need to get through April. And I got through April and then I was like, okay, how am I going to get through May? And with May came more photography clients who had been waiting in the wings. Like, I'm going to wait and see when things open. But they had kept seeing me because I was going live on my Facebook page a few times a week, interviewing other business owners, providing value about hey, I have a friend who's a plumber. So we talked about what do you do now that everyone is home? And how do you avoid plumbing disasters now that you have, especially and she, and some people who have adult children who are now back from college, right? So you have a bunch of adults in a house together. How do you avoid major plumbing disasters? So
there's families that could have seven adult human beings in a house using the toilet when normally it could be 2 or 3 at a time and some little kids. I can only imagine.
So I talked to her. I talked to my mortgage lender friend. I talked to my life insurance friend. I talked to a couple business coaches and finance people and accountants. And I stayed in front of people so that when it all sank in during the shutdown, people were like, you know what? I need a better website. I need updated headshots. I'm rebranding. I'm going to take this time to do this. And so they called me and they got on my calendar for May. So that was the focus. But what happened was, when we did this, the real launch of the course at the current price point, it did not, it was not as successful as the first one, but that was also because it was at a higher price point. And now we're on to the second launch at the higher price point and it should flow a little better. And because people are more aware of it. And since then, I've also added a Facebook group and it's, for all of your listeners out there, if you really want to start a Facebook group, and I waited because I did not want to manage, this was not something I wanted to add to my plate. I was like, oh my God, I know. I look at all of my friends who are admins of Facebook groups and I'm like, how do you do it? I don't get it. And I just named it what it is. It's social media and content marketing strategy. And I had 100 people within the first week and it's just slowly, it's adding more people every day. And so people
and this Facebook group this is an onboarding. This is a free content for people to hopefully buy into.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. It's a free group. Anybody can join. We talk about all things content marketing and digital marketing. That's why I call myself a digital content specialist, because I do more than just the photos. And I can, if you are, let's say you're immunocompromised and you really can't leave, but you need photos for your business and you don't want me coming into your house, like I can coach you through it over the phone, or I can give you a workshop in my group that has told you about how to take pictures effectively when you're stuck at home. And here's how you can use your quarantine buddy effectively. Right.
Yep. Have you been doing, I forgot what he called it, but have you been doing Zoom brand sessions? Like, so episode 106, I spoke with John D'Amato, who is also a brand photographer and does brand coaching and things like that. And
is he doing virtual sessions?
So he does virtual sessions where he sets up his laptop with a beautiful scene and he's photographing his clients doing a virtual lecture through Zoom. So he's getting, sort of this lifestyle, but virtual, high resolution images. So I wonder have you ever done one of those or thought about it?
I've thought about it. Like I've talked to people about, it's more trepidation on the end user's part. Like the people who are, and the people who want the photos are like, all right, I'm okay with doing it outside and distanced. So like, I have a couple of realtors that, want that local hometown feel. So they don't mind running around town. And, we talk to the business owners and we talk to the restaurants that they want to pop in. Like we're going to, very on the DL, run into Target and take a couple pictures and run out. Nice. But it's those types of like, that they're okay with it. So I haven't had the opportunity, but I have seen where it's working and I have friends who are doing it, one locally and a couple across the country. And I've seen it be very successful for the right
people.
For the right people.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't think I have the right people in my funnel for that.
Yeah, a realtor would never work for, right? But somebody who is a public speaker, for example, or some sort of online educator would. That's like the ideal situation.
I'm making a note of this. I'm going to see how I can make this work.
Yeah, check out what I say, episode 106, I think it was. Yeah, check out John's work. He does really, really amazing stuff. When that was one of his. I didn't start this mini series when I talked to him. I wish I did, because he did a huge pivot going from in person to basically just full on private training and in these virtual sessions at this point. And he actually had he had COVID, which he talks about in the episode. So he, at the time we were recording, he was recovering. So he would cough a lot, gasp for air a bunch. So we had to take short breaks. But what would you tell other photographers that are in your situation, whether they're a brand photographer or not? What would you tell the photographers in general that are in your situation where they lost 70% of their revenue, where they're really hurting?
The one mantra, and it's stuck with me, was a business coach friend of mine who's also like a serial entrepreneur, and a client. And he said, social distancing does not mean business distancing. And we had that conversation early on in the pandemic, and it hit me and it stuck on me like glue. And because that's the reality, right? Like, even though we're physically distanced, even though we have to be isolated to a certain extent, it does not mean business distancing. It means that no matter what you're doing, you have to stay in front of your audience. The number one piece of advice I'm going to give to any photographer is get yourself out there showing the behind the scenes, showing how you do what you do, right? So whether you're setting up a time-lapse camera of, even if you're not shooting anything other than your dogs or kids or your neighbor's kid or, your little pod kid, whatever, right? Like people starting these school pods that are, all the same kids sharing the same diseases, like chickenpox parties. Whatever it is, whatever it is, right? Like you have to stay in front of people. So show people the behind the scenes, right? Like get out there in front of people, tell them that it's hard. Number one, be vulnerable. Number two, be real and be like, hey, I have no idea what my business is going to look like in 6 months. For now, this is what I'm doing. I hope you'll come along with me. And the last thing I'd say is if you don't have an email list, if you haven't been using an email list, get one now. Get yourself one now.
Yep.
Set a
and
frequency.
you can start free.
Yes.
Yeah. There's basically every email marketing platform has a free level at this point. So no matter where you go, you can start free. You can always move your list somewhere else if you're not happy with the service. I agree. And with the behind the scenes thing, with potentially doing a time lapse, there's a cheapy device. I'll see if I can find it on Amazon where I bought mine. It's like a little egg timer that you can actually sit a camera on. You can either put a camera or an iPhone. You get a little, and you just literally like an egg timer. You turn it, it clicks, and then it just turns your phone, and that'll just make your cheapy behind the scenes time lapse even more engaging because you're going to see that slow pan over an hour time or whatever you make it. So I'll see if I can find that on Amazon and link to it for anybody who's interested in picking one up. It's so inexpensive. You can even put a ball head on it. So it's literally got the thread for it. So my final question to you, because early on you actually answered my first 3 questions in one shot. So
I do get ahead of myself.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. So my final question to you is there something that you do? And by the way, actually, before I even get to that, I have to mention, you probably heard Jenny's kids before. I got to say, it wouldn't be a pandemic episode if you didn't hear the kids in the background, right?
No, I closed the outside doors, I closed the inside doors. So my funny story before we started was my husband had a last minute appointment that could not be changed. And it arrived yesterday, and I was like, well, I'm scheduled to this. I found a babysitter, and we're at my co-working space in my office. And all of a sudden, I hear my daughter screaming. I was like, did that pick up? Yeah. So, the sitter's with her. It's fine.
Yeah. But, it wouldn't be the same if we didn't hear her.
It would be way worse if I was at home with no sitter.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. Okay. So, I just had to bring that up because it was so funny.
Yeah.
So is there something you do, speaking of kids screaming, for your health, both mentally, physically, a combination, whatever, to cope with the stress that comes out of the pandemic and thinking about your business and all this stuff? For me, I train even harder in my karate classes because it's an incredible combination of the two, both mentally and physically. So I'm wondering what you do to, if anything, to handle this.
Yeah. So for the first month or so, I did not choose the most healthy routes, and I was working a lot, and I was filling my calendar with every Zoom meeting I could possibly get on, every networking, virtual, whatever. And I ate my feelings. We did a lot of bacon, ate a lot of bacon, and did a lot of baking. So, but then what happened was I was like, this is long-term. This is a poor choice. This is a poor solution for my coping skills toolbox. So I stopped eating my feelings and I started walking every day. So
walking is good. Walking
is good. Yeah. And you know what, though? I also accepted that I really enjoy working. I enjoy, but I shifted my calendar so that it was much more time blocked. So it was a more effective use of my time. Because I'm an extrovert. So I need people, and it was really, really hard to not even now it's hard when I see people. I'm like, I want to give you a hug, but I can't hug you because ew. And so, I walk, I made it a point. I actually got magazine subscriptions. That is something I did. I subscribed to 4 magazines.
Physical magazines,
paper magazines. Entrepreneur, Good Housekeeping, Real Simple, and there's another one. I don't remember what it was, but it comes to my house. And I sit down because they only take like 20 minutes to read, right? So I sit down in the backyard. We live in North Carolina. It's hot and sunny. It's really not bad weather here most of the time. So I'll sit in the backyard with the dog, the kids running, whatever, and I read my magazine. And I set aside that time to read my magazine. And, it's those little things.
Right.
And then about once every 4-ish weeks or so, I spend an entire day in bed watching something.
Nice.
Sometimes
what's the last thing you binge watched?
Ooh, The Boys on Amazon.
I haven't finished it yet. I started and then got caught into some other show or something, and I have to go back to it.
Yeah, it's that one's really good. The Last Kingdom on Netflix was really good. And I mean, Lucifer just came. I mean, we watched Cobra Kai. That was the other thing. So my husband and I, literally, we both we reached our thresholds and hit our walls, and we watched the Karate Kid trilogy and then watched all of Cobra Kai.
Nice.
And my husband was like, "Should we be paying attention to them?" I'm like, "No, it's cool. They're fine. They're alive."
And you watch both seasons of Cobra Kai?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so good.
So
it's
good.
It's so bad that it's so good. Like
right.
The fighting is cheesy. The conversations are cheesy. The whole script
just campy enough, and there's just enough of those references back to how cheesy the 80s movies were.
Yeah.
It's so good. Yeah, but it was so
I can't wait till season 3. Season 3 is going to be incredible.
I know. We were watching it, going, "How is this so good?" Like we were sitting there going, "Oh my god!"
Will Smith is one of the producers of that show.
I did see that. Yeah.
So that's pretty cool, and he's working on, the remake, The Karate Kid, with his son
Jaden, right? Yeah.
Jaden, yeah, and he's working on producing the sequel of that. So we'll see. Jaden's gonna be much older now, so I don't know what they're gonna do, but but all right, that was a good pivot of a conversation. I want to say thank you for joining me for this, first of this mini series inside our show. Can you tell the listeners the absolute best place to find more information about you?
Yeah. So the best place to find information about me is just go onto any social media platform and type Jenny Midgley. Because when you are a personal brand photographer, guess what you do? You put your name out there as your brand. So I'm out there as Jenny Midgley on every platform. But the easiest way is, if y'all are familiar with Linktree, it's the Linktree / Midgley, and you can find all of my links right there.
Cool. Yeah. So I'm going to link to all of Jenny's places, all of her links in the show notes, which you'll be able to find at imagely.com/podcast/111.
Nice.
So check that out to learn more about Jenny and to sign up for her platform for if you are looking to grow your brand in a, whether it's your photography brand or something else you're shifting to. So don't forget to subscribe to the show, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, Google Play, wherever you listen to podcasts, of course. And I'll see you next time.
You've been listening to the WordPress Photography Podcast. To listen to other episodes and to subscribe to the podcast via iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and more, please visit imagely.com/podcast.